I'm still doing comics. I still want to do more comics. I haven't done any of that since I haven't actually made one and put one out since 2017.
Should we start talking about our comics?
Yeah, let's talk about comics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk about your comic.
So I said earlier that I want to just do the fun stuff for Hale Kane because that's sort of what I've been thinking about.
Yeah,
and
so
I would enjoy doing that.
You haven't done it in a long time.
Yeah.
Why would you say you haven't done it in so long?
I've just been doing other stuff.
Fair enough.
I was at uni, and I guess I got sort of burnt out from trying to do Hale Kane and trying to do it right and worrying about doing it right, and it sort of took away from the fun of it, I think. And then I started work, but I was still doing a bit of that, so it's not really work. I just haven't committed to it. I think other stuff seemed a bit easier, like YouTube. Like I've always done YouTube since 2010, but I've been doing comics longer. Yeah, I think just other stuff became more important.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
But I still want to go back to it because so there are some things that comics are better at than, I'm not like a 3D animator or anything, but I can draw. So, I can draw, I can write, and I can do that with a pen and a piece of paper.
It's your chosen medium.
Yeah. And I've still got those ideas from years ago going on that I still think about, and so I want to...
Do you write everything down at least whenever you come up with a little idea? Write it on a little sticky note or in a little Word document?
I haven't come up with a new idea in a long time, so...
I try my best to write down every idea, no matter how small, because I might forget it later on. Spent a long time organising all my ideas the other day.
Yeah.
All my comic shit.
All
my nonsense.
Because I was sick so much last year, and it seems to be like my main excuse, but it's not, I don't know. I've not had the memory that I used to have. So sometimes I go, oh yeah, that happened.
That's why you write things down.
Yeah.
We're getting old, Yeah,
it could be that.
We're getting on in years. We're running out of space.
Yeah, my hard drive's getting full.
Kinda. I honestly think that is a big factor of growing older. Your hard drive does start getting full, and you got to start deleting shit.
Yeah.
And you just gotta prioritize. That's why again I write everything down because I don't know what I'm going to remember next week. I like to think I remember stuff, and sometimes I often will, but sometimes I just come up with like a small idea, and I'm like, that's a good one, and I write it down. I don't always immediately put it in like a detailed Word document, but sometimes it's just a sticky note. My desk is covered with sticky notes.
Yeah.
Of all these little ideas. Because I don't want to lose anything, because it might be important later. Sometimes it's not, though. I deleted a lot of stuff the other day, but because I changed my mind on things. But yeah, if you ever come up with an idea for Hale Kane, just write it down. Write a little note.
Yeah.
Little guy.
I got my notes program on my phone.
Exactly.
Just do that. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's like that Damn Legacy as well, but I haven't done anything for Damn Legacy.
You're still interested in Damn Legacy?
Yeah. I was thinking about it, was it yesterday? Thinking about how much I like the characters that I've made in that.
I've started slowly. When I was writing a story called Edited a long time ago, it was a story that I wrote shit tons for but never did anything with.
Yeah.
I worked on it for like 5 years or something. I made a lot of characters. Some are shit, but some I was very proud of. And Edited is kind of being completely rebuilt from the ground up. So I've kind of got all these just ideas that are kind of just sitting around doing nothing. I've actually started incorporating a couple of them into in Brimstone Beach, my current project. Just a couple of little things I'm like, that's too good to leave behind. I'm going to bring that with me.
Yeah.
I like that concept. I'm taking it. It's mine anyway. Fuck you.
I've got
It's been kind of nice.
stuff like that, carrying old things over. my old mate Miguel, when we were friends in primary school, we used to make up Pokemon, and he made up this one called Kabom, and I repurposed that as a character in Hale Kane.
So he's not even your original idea?
No. Well, I mean, like what I drew of
You
Kabom.
thief.
What I drew of Kabom is very
thief.
different to what he drew as a Pokemon card.
Yeah. It's just a name. You can I think that for the most part of names, like
But not only that, I also used it in Damn Legacy as like a character in Blast from the Future.
I think that like you're always going to have. Actually, this is kind of an interesting topic. I've been thinking about it a lot recently. The old act of stealing like an artist. Because you see, there's this idea, and it's true, where it's just like there's no such thing as an original idea in the modern age. It's just remixes of everything that's already come before, right? Changing things up. And as a result, I don't know if you've seen it, there's actually been a couple of videos on it. One was H-Bomber Guy's big video on plagiarism, but then Tom Scout also did a big video on plagiarism and stuff. And like basically there's a gradient of like straight up theft and like coincidence and like everything in between. Basically, like for the most part, it's fine because this shit just happens. Because so it's funny, right? So I agonized over the name Brimstone Beach for a long time. I had all these. I mean, first it was called Tomato and Alice, and then it was called Alice and Tomato because TNA is funny, but not what I was going for. And I didn't like that name at all for a really long time because I don't like names of characters. It's just the title. I don't know. It's kind of boring. I say as someone who also had a story called Kass.
I mean, I had an obvious plagiarism name for like the first 3 years of it.
Undermon.
Before I called it Damn Legacy.
Well, it's not really. That's what I mean. It's not really plagiarism.
But
that's like Digimon. It's just Monster.
It started off like my own version of Pokemon and Digimon, and then I realized that I actually was far more interested in writing a story than I was about making a game. So my games were like action adventure stories.
It just evolved.
Yeah. It turned into my thing.
Yeah, exactly. And you changed the name accordingly. So I had all these different names. I wrote a list of potential names, and I went through them really meticulously, and I kind of tried them out and worked with them until I eventually landed on Brimstone Beach, and I was so happy with it. And I stuck with it, and I got used to talking about it and saying Brimstone Beach. I'm still getting used to it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I made that logo, and I was so happy, and I posted the artwork, the first piece of artwork with it. And then that night, I was about to head to bed, and I thought, I never looked up to see if anyone else has thought of the name Brimstone Beach. I'm sure no one has. It's kind of an obscure couple of words. Nope, there actually is. There's one other instance of a place called Brimstone Beach in a video game, Monkey Island. There's one location at it called Brimstone Beach, and it just happens to be a complete parallel thinking coincidence.
That's not really a big deal, though.
No, it's not. But like, it's just kind of, this is what I mean by like nothing you do is original. It's kind of funny, like. And you'll see this with characters as well. And it's become, again, a bit of a thing. I've seen a lot of artists, like, it's become like this thing where, like, artists don't like it when you're like, hey, your character looks like this character. They don't like it when you point that out. Yeah. Because that's often, if not always, not their intention. Yeah. And it kind of comes across as slightly as an insult. And I've had it a lot with, like, Alice. Which is funny, because every single example that people have come up with for characters that look like Alice, they do look like Alice, but none of them are right as to where her inspiration comes from. And it's just like, oh man, like it's just kind of annoying, you know. It's just how life is. Though you're always going to have all these characters and stuff that are just, I don't know, they're going to be reminiscent of other things, and you just got to kind of own it and make your own thing out of it, and just stick to, you know, you don't want to suddenly change course, you know, course correct. But, oh no, it's reminding too many people of this, I got to change it. You just got to stick to it and just, you know. Because I like to think that if anyone ever fucking asked, where did you get inspiration for this character? I'd just tell them. Where did Tomato come from? Oh, he used to be a fucking Metal Sonic. Yeah. Yeah. Redder is very clearly inspired by Ratcatcher 2 from The Suicide Squad. Yeah. I mean, she's like, all my characters are amalgams of all these different character ideas and stuff, but like, there's some clear influences for some of them.
You probably see a lot of inspiration in my first Hale Kane comic. Like, I literally made it as a space filler for the magazine because I thought, oh, it's a magazine, you got to have a comic in it because it's like a newspaper. And so I made this story where it's like, like I made half of it in the classroom at school, and so there's a lot of Hale Kane goes to school because of course he does, but he's older than me, so he goes to college.
Right.
And he also plays gridiron because isn't that what they do at American high schools? So there's that, and then there's also it's in high school, so there's like girls involved and stuff. And then also he's a superhero, but he doesn't have powers because I didn't think about that until like the second one. And
yeah, it's funny.
And I sort of realized that it's like, you know what? Rather than try and reboot the whole thing, why don't I just like go, you know what? I was like young and dumb, alright? This is what I did, and it's taken many years and it's evolved over time.
Wouldn't you want to reboot it though? Because you're a much better writer now.
Am I?
Then when you were a teenager, you absolutely are.
Oh yeah.
I know that for a fact because we work together.
There is stuff that
we watch similar things and learn a lot about writing. Even if you haven't like deliberately studied, you've learned a lot.
Yeah.
But I think it's also a thing with us is like in particular we like writing big stories.
Yeah.
We can't help it. As you know, Brimstone Beach initially was just going to be a single character, just doing things whenever I felt like it, and now she lives in a huge world with all kinds of lore and implications and backstories and abilities and powers and situations and scenarios and storylines and arcs. Brimstone Beach is huge.
Yeah.
But no one knows about it because I don't post anything because it takes too long.
At least with Damn Legacy, I've finished making the stories. So everything that I'm doing from this point onwards is sort of like a going back over old ground and enhancing it.
I will say though, my plan for Brimstone Beach in terms of comics and animations is to keep it relatively episodic, relatively speaking. I might have larger arcs later, but I do want to try and keep it like, you don't have to read the whole thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the comic I'm writing right now is like an introduction. It's about how Tomato and Alice met, their first interactions. And there's going to be a couple of little hints to bigger things, but for the most part it's fairly self-contained. And that's how I'm going to try and keep it. And any animations will just be little moments, little funny moments, and that'll be it. But I have all these like lore things that I want to sprinkle throughout, backstories and things.
Yeah.
Because I've tried to keep the overall like goal of the story simple and quiet. Big things will happen, but they're all on just vacation. They're just hanging out on a beach, and things happen too.
I want to tell you like what you should do. Like, don't try to go too big and stuff like that. But I'm also just like, do what you want to do.
I'm just doing what I want.
Yeah, because that's just how you enjoy it.
I can't be contained. I just write lots of things. I've thought of
and
all
it's
kinds
great.
of things.
It's great. Like so much good stuff came out of Edited.
Yeah, well, it didn't come out, but yeah, it was there.
Well, the stuff that you did put out, like the stuff about 38 and 49 and
so much lore.
Is it Six Tooth? And Six Tooth came from Outlanders.
Yeah, I wonder if it's a room to Brimstone Beach as well.
Yeah.
Little Frankenstein.
But you've got like stuff like that, and like Outlanders was great. I loved it when you were making that.
Outlanders was for the audience, it was a game I was designing.
Yeah. That's what we used to do back in the day.
It's about all these like Frankenstein like monsters in a desert. It's kind of weird. I can't really explain it. Anyway, one of them was a character called Six Tooth who had 6 teeth.
Yeah.
And giant hands.
Yeah.
And a cowboy hat.
Yeah.
And he spoke like this.
Yeah.
He also had one eye.
I helped you make the names as well. There was a guy called Jeff in Skyflake Nimbus, I think.
Yeah, Skyflake Nimbus, holy fuck.
Because there was like different sort of sections. Like Skyflake Nimbus was like a DLC.
Yeah,
to Outlanders.
I had all these DLC
but it was
stories.
In the sky.
That's just how I am. I write a big main story for things, and then I write little stories around it. Edited, like I said, it had 5. It had the main story, it had a sequel, it had a prequel, it had a far sequel, so something that happened way in the future, and it had a far prequel that happened way in the past.
Yeah.
And each one had different protagonists and characters and things like that.
That's like Assassin's Creed, isn't it?
I guess. Although the sequel did have the main characters still, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But like, there was this far sequel where it was like 100 or 1,000 years in the future, is a completely different character. They were kind of like uncovering what happened. And then there was a far prequel where it was like covering the story of these characters that kind of made the world, but they were important to the world. Though the Dragon Slayers, And the sequel was just about the original prequel was just about Alphalis and his story.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I don't mean to talk about a story that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
But right now, Brimstone Beach is thankfully just one story.
Yeah.
I don't even have that many characters. You know, I've learned the way I used to make characters when I made edited.
Yeah.
Was every idea I had for a character was a new character.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them were interesting but relatively one-dimensional. Whereas now what I like to do is I like to merge characters. So if I have ideas for like, a character does this and a character does that, I think, well, can I merge them together and make them one actually detailed character?
Yeah.
So Redda was originally like 3 characters. All these different, I had like this mad scientist character, I had this like weird, creepy, slinky character. It's not slinky, but like slinking around, who did weird, nefarious things. I had a character that lives in a trash can, and they all, like a bunch of them, they all merged together to make Redda.
Yeah.
Like all of these concepts kind of work. And so that's what I try and do to make my characters. So now, like with Brimstone Beach, I can only tell you that I have total of all the characters I know I'm definitely going to have. I have 9, and 3 of them are public knowledge.
Yeah, that's solid.
Yeah, and most of them aren't even that fleshed out.
Yeah. I mean, that's like most of the characters that I want to have in Hale Kane.
Redda, Tomato, and Alice are all super fleshed out. And then I got a bunch of supporting characters that I'm kind of working on right now. They all have tragic backstories.
Yeah.
My goal with Brimstone Beach primarily is I want to keep it digestible for the layman. So with the individual image pictures, the animations, and to an extension the comics, that I want them all to be like you can just look at one and enjoy it. You don't need to know the lore and the backstory. That's my goal. That's my one goal.
You don't need to put like a number on it.
Yeah, but the lore and the backstory is there for people that want it.
Yeah.
So anyway. What are you planning on writing today?
I'm gonna work on Hale Kane.
Yes, what in particular?
I just want to. I realised we went on holiday in our usual family holiday in June, and my goal was to draw pictures of Hale Kane and make something related to Hale Kane. And that's what I did, and I took a few shots before I started drawing properly. And then after I did that, I made a really crap comic, and then after that, I started. I realised that you just sort of can't like expect too much of yourself if it's been a while.
Yeah.
And I was just happy that I did something.
Yeah.
And I was just proud that I'd done that and spent some time thinking about it and concentrating on it.
Sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah.
Just need to get a little creative juice dripping out of your fingertips.
Because I've had this idea, like I want to go like, I don't want to say like post-apocalyptic because it's kind of not. It's kind of like, I just want to go to where I want the story to be, where I'm excited about stuff that happens in it, and where it gets really interesting for me.
Okay, so you have this idea that's further on in the story.
Yeah.
You just want to write that?
Yeah, I mean, I came up with the idea like 5 years ago or something.
Well, just write it then.
Yeah, that's what I
No
wanna do.
point restricting yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, eventually, if you want to, get it all out there, you want to have it connect well and all that.
Yeah,
but
have it all filled out.
You don't have to do that right now. I mean, it's the thing about it is you got to understand with our comics, if there's anything that we're doing just for fun, it's definitely them.
Yeah.
Because I'm not getting paid, you're not getting paid.
No.
But it's, it shouldn't be a thing where you're like, oh, I have to do this. It's your fucking hobby, dude. You do it however you want.
Yeah.
So while we've edited, I never really made a single page. I'm not that bummed about it because I had a lot of fun making it.
Yeah.
I made lots of stuff.
It's like Damn Legacy, I think. Like I haven't produced anything out of it.
Yeah.
I've just come up with a lot of cool ideas and drawn some cool pictures and made a story that I love.
Sometimes it's all it's got to be.
Yeah. I was just thinking about it the other day. I'm like, I love how each of my main characters is different. Blade Senior, Blade Junior, Razor, and Razor.
You do want that with your characters.
And I was just thinking about it, like I kind of have them kind of fleshed out pretty well. Like, by the time it gets to Eraser, the family is so, like, big and well-known and famous that it's kind of, like, more pressure on her than it would have been on Razor. Like, Razor was, like, a rebel.
Yes.
When he came along, he was like, I don't give a shit. And with Blade Jr., it was like, he was just friends with everyone. Everyone loved him and he loved it all. And he was just sort of embracing it. With Blade Sr., he was kind of a rebel, but he was kind of a rebel in, like, he didn't want to be normal and bow to the man and stuff like that. He was a wild kid.
Okay.
And he just grew into an older man.
That's fun,
and, you know, shit happened and he ended up in a better position in life.
Have you written character sheets for these guys?
No, maybe I should.
Because I was just thinking, like, what I did the other day is I wrote these really big character sheets. I found this pretty good template, and then I adjusted it to, you know, fit my needs.
I mean,
You might want it.
I did for Hale Kane a few years ago. I think like there was one that you gave me, and I put all my characters in it and did that. Yeah, I don't know. I think, you know, it's great to put all this effort in behind the scenes, but it's just not. There's no point to it unless you actually finish something and then have a look at it and go, this isn't good enough, or this is fine.
You got to make stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't have it all be in your head.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like sometimes, you know, I was telling this to someone that even if you don't think it's going to be good, maybe it's something good to just make it and then change it later. You don't have to publish anything immediately, because then you can see where you need to fill it in, right? You can see where the gaps are and what needs to be added and changed, and it can really help inform your next act and decision and things. You can just make, again, you can just make whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to. You don't have to make the final product immediately. You can make drafts. You can make and then, like, you know, test it with people and be like, "What do you think of this?" And they'll be like, I think you need to add this. And you go, "Okay."
Yeah.
You know, it's all just fun.
My favourite arc that I did in Hale Kane was the Edward Black storyline, where it was like a movie. The way I made the 3 comics, which was Kaboom's neutral effect, Black is back, and killing Hale Kane. And those 3 are like some of my most dramatic comics that I've done. That was so much fun to do. And at the end of each one, I was like, oh my god, I can't believe it. And I was like, this is what I should be like. And then after that, it was like I put pressure on myself because I'd had so much fun with it. And I felt like after killing Hale Kane, I had to deliver to myself something bigger and better. And then I clearly really struggled that over subsequent years. And especially changing the way that I made the comics, like making them digital and they all look nicer and stuff like that. But then if the story's not good enough and I'm not putting it together as well, then it's just not going to show as well. Hale Kane 14, Derek Core. That comic was going to be completely different until I came up with the bad guy for it, and then I changed the entire comic and made it about him. And I was like, you know what, I love that. And then that created the arc where KJ comes out of prison, and then I made everything really hard for myself. But
you wrote yourself into a bit of a corner, you think?
In terms of the prison stuff, yeah. I could have just completely ignored that and just pretend it didn't happen. Gone and made up my own story. I'm not worried about what people thought.
Yeah.
It's just easier doing that.
Well, I think at your stage right now, the main thing you want to do is just get back into it.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter what you're doing, good, bad.
Yeah. I'll be doing that more after I move into my house. And the problem is, with being me, is that I also want to get into music. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that until I move in my house. Then I'm like, but I also want to do like everything ever when I move in my house. So
yeah,
how am I going to do anything?
So you just do what you want to do at the time.
Yeah. You know, I could just...
If I were you, I wouldn't be setting up, when I get in my house, I want to do all these things. Because once you get there, you might be like, I don't want to do any of that shit.
Yeah.
So just do it.
That was another thought I had. Like, you know, I'll just do what I want to do when I want to do it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you got to do.
Yeah. there are some things.
You don't have to ever touch your damn comic again. You didn't feel like it. No one's forcing you to. I don't want to talk about games. I want to talk about comics, dude.
Yeah.
Because today we were talking about working on them. So that's what I'm saying. Like when we do get into working on, what exactly do you plan on doing? Do you want me to get you these character sheets that I've been working on, and you can fill in those little?
Nah, I'm just gonna sit down and doodle and write.
Okay. Doodle write.
Yeah, I've already done character sheets and stuff for Hale Kane.
Okay.
I haven't looked at them, but I've been like, gee, that's just like a whole lot of words and numbers right there.
I'm trying to get everything kind of in frame. Get this big expansive world and kind of like sort out like, okay, what's the series of events, and kind of boil them down to like simple names and events and things like that. And following character arcs and stuff, just really simplifying things. So it's not a million ideas that are all scattered all over the place, but kind of refined. So that's why with these character sheets, not only am I writing like all their details, but also like this is where they start off in the story. This is where they go. This is what like how they're introduced and things like that.
Yeah.
How they evolve and change.
I think I struggle a lot with that with KJ. He's such a middleman. He's just like
middle child.
He's always like. He's the butt of the jokes, and every other character I've written is just better in some capacity. Although I reckon I can think of one that I might just not include at all. I might get rid of him.
Well, you've got to ask yourself with every character and every decision you make in your comic, as we talked about before, you got to ask yourself why. What does this serve?
I know what ones. Like I know I'm definitely keeping.
I feel kind of bad about it. I remember you showed me a scene that you'd written. And I read the whole thing. I was like, this is a good scene. But, like, why?
Yeah.
And you were like, I don't know. It just happens. I'm like, yeah, but why does it happen? How does it evolve? How does it affect the story? And you're like, it doesn't. I'm like, oh. It was like a shower room scene or something, a locker room scene.
I don't know. I know I did one where got my old superhero guild characters at a bar. And I was just sort of seeing how the characters go.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you can throw them in scenarios and think about them and go, well, this actually like informs their character or shows how they'd act.
Yeah.
And that can be still something that you can include that kind of stuff if it informs the audience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like I've got this one character, Javelin, who I love so much because he's so much fun to write because he's so charismatic and he's everybody's friend. But he's also been through a lot himself, and so he's like everybody's favourite uncle. That's what he's like.
Yeah.
He's just... And then I've got this other character, Eroda, and he's so grumpy, and so, I like having him there, but then maybe I should just sort of do something like merge Eroda and Javelin's sister Avail, because they're not fully fleshed out. Like with Javelin, I can visualize what it would be like to have him in the room with me.
He's very fleshed out. Yeah.
He's very fleshed out. I love it. I could write him start to end.
He writes himself.
He's brilliant.
That's good. I think that's what you want to achieve with your characters. Is you make the groundwork so solid that they actually do this runaway with the page.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that my three main characters are like that for Brimstone Beach.
Yeah, I think they're like that as well.
If you throw them in a situation, I just know how they'll do it. That's simple as that.
Yeah. And KJ's less so, because I just sort of I struggle with that process. Sometimes you just write a character that you sort of nail, and
have a good foundation.
Yeah, and like with
I was trying to help you with KJ initially because I have this thing with my writing, and I've told you about. I'm telling the audience now, called the cartoon personality.
Yeah,
and all that really means is can you boil just a way that you can boil their personality doesn't have to be one simple thing, but just a defining feature. Like they are grumpy, they are charismatic, they are bubbly. Just one word. And that can kind of inform the rest, and you can go from. Obviously, they can have a lot more depth to them than that, but just a certain a level of you look at Harry Potter, right? Snape, he's grumpy. There's a million aspects to Snape. We all know that he's got his backstory is incredibly tragic and all that.
Yeah.
But you can still boil him down to he's grumpy.
Yeah.
Dumbledore. Again, a million things, but he's nice.
He's a wise old man.
He's nice. He's wise. Yeah, wise and sagely, I guess. I've used that word twice today.
Yeah.
Just things like that. The Doctor, you can say, is eccentric. Something like that, you know? Each Doctor, I guess, kind of has their own personality because his personality kind of changes a bit. But
because it's the actor.
Yeah, it's the actor. But like that's what I mean by like, even though all these characters have a lot of depth to them, and there's a lot more to their personality than that. I think it really helps with a character to just write, this is what they're like on the surface, like the first thing that you can see from them. Like even if you just look at their character design, you can tell, they are naturally grumpy, happy, whatever.
The biggest problem for KJ is that he's boring and he's the main character. And
yes,
I think
I've tried helping you with him, and every suggestion I come up with, you reject.
Yeah, I really struggle with it.
I think it's because you're tied down to what you've already written. And you're too committed to that, and you go, well, that doesn't really fit what you've already done, but what you've already done
isn't that good. So yeah,
that's why I've been kind of encouraging you to be like, not necessarily reboot it, but come at it with fresh eyes. It's not a puzzle we have to work out right now. I'm just saying.
No.
This is my philosophy on writing characters, which might not even be good. It's just like I'm just saying this is how I do it.
Yeah.
Because I am of the opinion that I really like. I like to design characters in a very memorable, almost silhouette-ish way, where you can, by a glance, you can pretty well figure out what they're all about. At least, there's a lot more to it. But if you can, I hope that you look at, Alice. And you go, I get it. She's almost always angry or grumpy. She's very pristine. She's got a big stick up her ass.
Yeah.
She's very, you can kind of tell she's always got her arms crossed. But she's always standing very tall. So just by her silhouette, you can see she's uptight. She's grumpy. She's strict. And she hasn't even said a word yet. But you get you inform all of that. Tomato as well. He's always bouncing around, and he's almost always, his eyes are always gleeful.
Yeah.
And he's always doing a weird pose. You can say, he's a really happy, bubbly little guy. Again, I've got a lot more depth to him than just that. But and the same with Retta as well. She's just kind of chill, a little weird, a little sly. She's quite sly, but you can inform all of that.
Yeah.
She's rugged.
I think with KJ, maybe I should lean more into how underdeveloped he is.
So you mean
as just from a personality standpoint, like he went to prison at a young age, which means he didn't really get the mentoring that he needed, which meant that he sort of grows up a bit different.
See, I've always thought that I remember, I think I remember telling you this as well, it's like you could use his time in prison as how he was shaped. Because I remember you kind of wrote that his prison time didn't really change him as much as it just kind of was a place he was at for a while. Yeah. I think
a job for a long time.
Where I think it's like prison is kind of an interesting setting because you can inform a lot about a person from if they spent time in prison. Like, were they there deservedly? Were they not? What were the kind of people they were hanging out with? What did they have to do to survive?
It seems like from the prison stuff that I've seen, there's two kinds of people who come out of a long time in prison. One is the one that's been shaped by the system and ends up back in prison. And then there's the other that comes out reformed and paves their own way forward in life and is better off.
Yeah.
And and that's what KJ's gonna be. So maybe I could look at examples of YouTubers who've been in prison for a long time that,
if you want, that can help inform you.
Because those are real people.
Yeah.
They've been in prison for a certain number of years, and they interview people who were in prison for a long time as well, and a lot of, I think there's this show called After Prison Show, where he interviews people who are in prison, and if they're in for a long time, and a lot of the time, well, maybe not a lot of the time, but you do notice when such and such has gone back to prison again because they've gone and committed a crime,
right.
And they've gone sort of back into their shell, and they're not being easy to deal with anymore. And then there's this show called Fresh Out, where he's trying to advise young kids against thinking that going to prison is cool, because like they're all trying to have their street reputation, and they're all cool kids, and they're all smoke and drink, and they steal stuff, and they're all getting fights, and they're all tough, all the young kids, they're all like that. But they're the ones that watch his show, and he's like, what the hell's wrong with them? That's what he's like. I'm like, that's
too glorified.
Yeah, that's what he says. It's just like, it isn't all it's cracked up to be. Like, he's all this big tough guy. Well, he's not. He's like, he worked out in prison. He spent a lot of time doing that, but he also spent a lot of time like reading and becoming a very learned man as well.
That's the thing. You could draw upon that for KJ.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, what do you have to
I
do?
could make KJ a buff, learned man.
Well, you could, but I'm saying, like, you think about this stuff. So it's like, okay, did he spend his time working out? Did he spend his time reading? How did he survive in prison? Did he just use his powers, or did he try and make friends with people? Was he a loner? Was he? You can do all of these things. They can inform the person that's come out at the end.
Yeah. Instead, I wrote that nothing had changed and he was the same kid.
Because that's the funny thing about putting them in prison. You can actually, it's one of the few scenarios where you can probably write them to be a completely different person when they come out.
Yeah.
He could have no personality when he went in, but when he comes out, you can do anything.
Yeah.
In a weird way, you struck a gold mine without even realising it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never written a prison character.
Yeah.
Imprisoned character.
No.
I don't think so. I kind of have, I suppose, but not really.
I mean, you've seen the movies that I haven't seen, like
Shawshank Redemption?
Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, yeah.
Where at the end, Morgan Freeman's character talks about being, what's it called, when you're shaped by the system? Prisonization, something like that. Something like that, where you're sort of, you become part of the system. And I guess
you become part of, like, jail becomes your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some really powerful examples and imageries in that movie. So there is the example of people who they get let out and then they just kind of want to go back in because that's the life they know. So they will immediately commit a crime.
Yeah.
And then there's a really sad example in that film where there's this old man who's been in prison for he had a life sentence or something.
Yeah.
Spoilers for the Shawshank Redemption. A year that's like
1991 or something.
Yeah. He finally leaves prison and the world has changed so much.
Yeah.
And he tries to get into, I think he gets like a job at like as like a checkout person.
Yeah.
And like you can kind of see that he's like just struggling to adjust this because society's moved so much without him basically. And all he really knew was life in prison, and he ends up killing himself because he just he can't fit back in to society. He tries, like he gets a job, he gets a place, he gets everything, but he just can't do it. And he ends up dying, killing himself. And it's like, that's a really powerful and interesting thing. It makes you think a lot about, what prison is like and things like that and what it can do to someone. And this is what I mean by, like, again, you've kind of hit a gold mine in terms of character writing because you could do anything.
I'm thinking about that. Like, I really want to start thinking about that more.
And of course, there are people, who there are on the less extreme side who leave and then just immediately commit a crime to get back in prison. And it usually be something like that's not even like crazy. Like I think in the film they show an example. It's just Grand Theft Auto. Just someone just steals a car, doing it deliberately to get caught and all that, but not like killing anyone or anything like that.
Yeah.
Whereas the main character, his whole thing is that he was framed in the first place, and he needs to.
That was the sort of thing I went down with KJ.
To get out.
The idea that like KJ was having this big fight in the middle of Detroit.
Yes.
And there was a lot of damage, and the guy he was fighting died, but KJ didn't kill the guy. They were like shooting their beams against one another, and then KJ was trying to block it and rebounded at him, and he just got knocked out in the process.
Right.
And the guy was shot by the FBI, and KJ ended up in prison. But it was only supposed to be for a year, and then Derek Core came along and stole him, and he blew up Derek Core and killed a lot of people, and ended up with a much longer sentence.
You could do all kinds of things with that. You could do like guilt that
Yeah.
raised up in him. Does he blame himself for that first murder, or is he completely like, no, it wasn't me?
Yeah.
You know, you could do things like that, or like,
With-
or he could have this sense of injustice.
Yeah.
You know, he could be very rebellious about the fact that, like, you know, he doesn't trust the system because he
Yeah.
knows he's innocent, but you know,
That's what I'm thinking.
he's
with,
continuously finding himself in prison for various things that it's not really his problem.
Yeah.
He didn't do. That's kind of, you know, again, with the Shawshank Redemption, the main character was falsely imprisoned, and it's this big injustice, and you know the whole time he didn't do it, and yet he has to do this life sentence. He does break out in the end, though,
Yeah.
and then he's
Right. Breaks out in the end, but does he get caught again?
I don't think so. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but if I remember correctly, what happens is he gets on a boat, and then you never see him again.
Yeah.
It's his fate is unknown,
Okay.
I think, and it's kind
Well,
of
he
this, like,
disappears from, registering for anything, and so they don't know where he is.
I don't remember. It's been a few years, but I'm pretty sure that was the whole thing. Is like after he left, that was the last anyone ever heard of him.
Yeah, he dropped off the radar,
Yeah.
went into the wilderness.
I think so.
Yeah.
Or was it that? I think that he had this thing. He left a little box under a tree for Morgan Freeman to find, and then like they met up on a beach or something, and then took a boat out to sea. I don't remember if Morgan Freeman went with him though.
Yeah.
Andy Dufresne. Not Andy Dufresne. That's my Morgan Freeman impression. Do you like it? Andy Dufresne. I can't do it. I was thinking about voice actors recently. I've been thinking about voicing Tomato.
Yep.
First I thought to myself, should I voice Tomato? Because like I'm not a voice actor, but then I was kind of thinking to myself like, I think that it's just synonymous with my voice. with the
Yeah.
character. I think it'd be weird. I came up with an idea for
It
like
would be weird if you had like a...
there's a voice actor that I heard. I thought, oh, he'll work perfectly, and then I kind of tried it out. I was like, this doesn't work at all. And I think it's because I've been kind of voicing him in my head for so many years. So now I'm going to voice him. I think it's just going to be me.
Yeah.
But I'm going to put on a little voice with it.
Yeah.
But I'm
I
not a
think you
voice
have to.
actor. Is the thing.
I think it's going to be difficult to get right, but you can tell he's sort of... He'd have like a high pitch kind of voice, but also not like too high pitch, but like kind of.
I think he's going to talk a little bit something like this.
Yeah.
Something like this. Oh golly, oh golly.
Mhm.
I gotta say oh golly a lot because it's his catchphrase. Oh golly. Oh, that's more like it. Oh golly. Nope, I lost it again.
No.
Oh golly. Oh golly, Alice, I'm not so sure about this. Yeah, something like that. That's probably what it's going to be. That'll be a little voice. Golly.
What's the one where they go to a cafe and he's like, well, lemonade, please.
One lemonade, please.
And she's like, one blood drink or whatever.
She's like, she asks for, can I get the blood of 100 virgins? He goes, can I get a lemonade, please?
Yeah, you can see his hand sticking out from behind him. Well, lemonade.
Just one, please. He's going to talk a little bit. Yeah, I got to practice it more, but it's just become synonymous in my head.
Mm.
I don't know. I'm not a voice actor, though. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at voices.
Yeah.
I briefly considered having Aaron voice Tomato. I thought to myself, he could probably do it better than me.
Mm.
But again, I think that his voice is just like Tomato has just become synonymous with my voice.
Yeah.
Oh well. His voice would not be this deep, though.
No. I was watching like mine and Aaron's voices are very deep at times.
Yeah.
So you just can't really do it.
I mean, Aaron's a great voice actor. He can do all kinds of stuff, but I might get him to do things. I might get you to do things.
What was he did with the hats in TF2 hats?
The Gentleman of Leisure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is, though, with Brimstone Beach, is that it's a primarily female cast, so they don't have a lot of male characters.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I have a few, but I don't want to talk about them because they're little spoilers.
Yep.
Again, not that anyone gives a shit, of course, about the lore of something that they've only seen pictures of, if they've even seen them at all.
Yeah.
I was so proud of my most recent picture, and no one saw it. I mean, that's just how it is, but it's just like, oh man. I've come to realize that with the three characters, that sometimes I'll post them individually, and I can kind of gauge like what people like and what they don't like.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of been leaning into them. I think like so. I think the most favorite character is Alice. I think it's because that she is very voluptuous.
Mm-hmm.
Then comes Tomato, and I think it's because he's kind of cute, but also he's recognizable. And then Redder is last because I don't think anyone knows anything about her, which is kind of funny because I know the most about her and I like her a lot. I think she's my favorite character. I think she's very fun.
Yeah.
Very fun to write. So the way I see it is like with Alice, it's like, she can be the sex appeal, I guess.
Yeah.
And she's for the other people.
Yeah.
Redder is for me.
Yeah.
No one cares about Redder but me. Tomato's just a goofy little guy.
Yeah.
For the kids.
I think what I've been thinking of doing with writing is, rather than, like you've got like this inner voice in your head saying, "Oh no, don't do this, do it like that." And I'm like, why don't I just incorporate that into the story with like a character who is that inner voice, questioning everything. I think.
What do you mean?
Like when I'm thinking about, what's KJ gonna do next? Why don't I just have a character who asks that, and just sort of have that carry on.
Well, so that's kind of, that depends on what you mean by, like, what are you going to do next? Are you talking about, like, how the story will progress, or, like...
Or let's say there's no...
How are you going to respond to this beat?
Well, let's say, with KJ, there's no bad guys in town, and they're like, well, you can't just sit around here doing nothing. Like, why don't I just do that? Every time I have a thought that's like,
Well, I'll tell you one thing. If you've got nothing going on in the story, you don't have to write it at all.
Yeah.
You could just be like, and then several months passed.
Yeah, and then several years passed, and
you
he did nothing. And
plenty of stories to get.
Here's KJ digging a hole at a construction site.
Again, like, I don't mean to bring up Harry Potter all the time, but it's just a universally known thing. You don't hear every single aspect of his life.
No.
Not even when he's at, like, the Dursleys. You only usually hear the last little, like, couple of weeks.
The end of the summer or whatever.
Yeah, you don't need to know everything he's been doing. Like, there's a time skip there. And even throughout the year, there's time skips. So it's like several months went by and they all did their exams. So, it's just like...
Yeah.
You don't have... The whole point of a story is you're showing people what the interesting bits.
Yeah.
You don't have to show them the boring shit unless something happens in the boring shit.
Yeah.
If it's like, okay, nothing's happening in the story, then don't show it. Stories are supposed to be entertaining. I'm not trying to say there should be edge of your seat at all times, but I'm saying, if nothing happens, then don't show it. Just don't have to worry about it. Just say, several months pass.
Yeah.
Or just have the events just happen one after the other with no breaks.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, I'm bringing up One Piece a lot because I've been watching it a lot, but, like, they can sometimes be traveling, like, for weeks in between the islands, and you don't see any of that. All that matters is what they do at the islands. Because that's where the exciting stuff happens.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're just living their lives.
Yeah.
Being pirates and whatnot. I'm not going to show every time in Brimstone Beach that they're just hanging out, enjoying the sun.
Yeah.
Unless something happens while they're doing that.
Yeah. I guess it's episodic. It's like, there was this one time where this happened. And it's like,
basically. I kind of have, like, a bit of an overarching story, but, like, in a minor, like, it's...
Well, in Hale Kane, with the original Hale Kane, there was, like, so many time skips. It was just like, he's on his way to work, and then the bad guy appears. He's just doing shit, and then some shit happens. Very
few stories, and it's actually become a kind of a thing now where writers are like, don't start your story like this. Don't start your story with the beginning of the character's birth. Don't start it like that. Don't start the character's literal birth.
Yeah.
And it's like, fair enough.
Megamind.
Well, it depends. I guess the thing about Megamind is it's played for laughs. It's a play on.
But also the whole idea is that he grew up and lived his entire life battling.
Yes, well, Megamind.
Metro Man.
Yes, well, I'm saying, but like the point is like the being born and then immediately put into a space shuttle. I don't even think he's born. I think he's already alive. But that's all. It is an information that it shows. It's part of the story because it connects directly to Metro Man and how his rivalry with him started literally basically from square one.
Yeah.
it's also played for laughs and it's a joke, and it's a big reference to Superman.
Yeah.
So that's what that's all. Like, I'm not saying like you should never start a story of the character's literal birth. I'm thinking more like fucking Fallout 3, where it's like there's literally no narrative reason that you start being born.
Yes.
You just it's just weird.
Yes. Superman came out of his mother and then started battling with Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
And he used his umbilical cord to try and strangle him.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's already a story. I mean, like, you can start a story at the child's birth, but only if it informs how the rest of his life will go, or their life. You know, it is funny because I do actually have how Tomato was born in my story, but he's not born traditionally. So
No.
And also, it is informing of the rest of his life. So
Yeah.
it's kind of funny. I remember with Tomato. Tomato is a very enigmatic character. He just kind of is. Yeah. And for a long time in the story, I plan on leaving that just completely unexplained. But I do have a very in-depth backstory as to why he is the way he is. And I know you told me not to, but I like it. I think it's good. I think I've worked on it enough, and I've got enough things that come out of it and through it and inform his character that I think it works.
Yeah.
Because it is fun that he's just kind of there. And to be honest, I've still kind of kept that aspect to some degree. There's actually, it's interesting, I've kind of, like, because he's a cartoon character and all kinds of crazy shit happens to him. If you crush him, he'll spring back up like an accordion, you know, and it's nonsensical. And I have a reason as to why exactly he's like that, and it's one of those, it's a big thing where it's like, I don't want to explain it because that's going too far. But also, I think my reason's pretty cool. So we'll see about that. Yeah. But as for his creation and his existence, like, I'll probably explain that eventually. Because I think his past is very tragic.
Okay.
I think it informs his character a lot, and it will be interesting.
Yeah.
But I won't tell you here.
I want to stop Mab and Tom and start working on comics now.
All right. Well, we're about 3.5 hours in.
Yeah, so solid innings. Yep.
Anything else you wanted to talk about? Any final thoughts?
No, we talked about YouTube today.
He said it. I've told you that before. That's my favorite ending to one of my videos.
Yeah.
At the very end, after the credits, it's the TF2 one. What's it called again? A Punch Above.
Yeah. So any final thoughts? No, and the video ends.
Yeah. That's my favorite ending.
Yeah.
I think you should end all your videos like that. Any final thoughts?
No.